This is not just a show. This is a shift. A reset of how men think, how men heal, and how men lead. Before behavior, there is belief. Before legacy, there is mindset. And before change reaches generations, it must first reach the mind. This is bridging generation. Yeah. We were raised on survival, not reflection. Taught strength, but not emotional protection. Passed down rules, never passed down tools. So we repeated cycles, thinking pain was the fuel. Different decades, same inner wars. Men grinding hard, but still unsure. We inherited limits, disguised as truth, and called them manhood. Handed down to the youth. But growth don't start with doing more. It starts with thinking different than before. What if failure was feedback, not shame? What if growth was learned, not fate or name? We don't stay fixed in who we've been. We expand the mind and life begins. Belief is the seed, mindset the soil. Growth is the reward of intentional toil. This is bridging generations, voices of men, where the mind gets renewed and healing begins. We don't pass down fear, we pass down plans. Blueprints for growth, hand to hand. From presence to purpose, from pain to design. We build better futures with a growth mindset. They told us that's just how men are, but we questioned the ceiling, raised the bar. We learned growth is a discipline, not a phase. A daily decision in how we're raised. Old men teaching lessons from scars. They survive, young men bringing vision, asking why different perspectives, same destination. Healing the man heals the generation. The growth mindset blueprint gave language to pain. Turned I can into I can learn again. No longer stuck in past definitions. We design men with intention. Growth is intentional. Mindset is foundational. Healing is learned. Legacy is built. Presence over pride, process over ego, blueprints, not excuses. This is how men grow. This is bridging generations, no fixed identity. We evolve, adapt, grow intentionally. We don't repeat cycles, we redesign systems. From the mind to the home, to the way that we lead them. The same motivation, it's transformation. Voices aligned through growth across generations. Growth is not accidental. Mindset is the real inheritance. And when men grow, families heal, communities rise, generations change.
Good evening, and welcome to Bridging Generations, Voices of Men in a Changing World. I am Dr. Laxley, one of your hosts.
Welcome. Dr. Juan Marcel here. Doc, what's going on?
Man, there's so much happening, my brother. So much. Personally and in the world.
Yes.
All kinds of stuff, good and bad, crazy and not so crazy, but all kinds of stuff, man. What's happening with you, man?
Oh man, there's a lot going on here. That we were talking previously. I'm just sitting here. I'm working on my book. Working on my book.
Tell me about it.
So real quickly, the book will be titled Unfathered. And of course, it's just about my experience of finding myself, manhood, purpose, life, identity, just all of those things in the absence of my father. So it's like my memoirs, just talking about what that process looked like.
I like finding yourself. And tonight we're going to talk about when men lose vision. Talking about finding yourself, right? The hidden cost of living without purpose. So powerful stuff, man. I can't wait. What's the timeline on the book coming out? What's the timeline?
So I'm pushing for having everything complete, manuscript and everything done by June. so I can get everything over and get it edited, you know, publish all of that stuff. So that process, but the push is for the end of May.
End of May.
Yep.
That's just a couple of months out, man.
Yeah, I know. You know, and I'll say this: there are other projects on the table, so I really want to get this done. My daughter was talking about writing a book, a children's book, and possibly something for her age group now, which is middle schoolers. So I was like, well, I want to put some time and focus on that. So I'm trying to get mine done, so you know we can look into that.
Oh, that's big stuff there. You get your daughter getting into the business as well.
Yes,
man, and that's the generation, man, that is going to make it happen. So that she is at a place with that curiosity, that mindset to write a book.
Yes.
Wow, I'm excited. I'm truly excited about the possibilities. So let's keep pushing that narrative. More and more of us, the younger ones, the older ones, all of us need to start putting pen to paper and telling your story.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, very, very important. You know, a couple of things are happening. And you talk about May. We're going to Kenya. I want to pop something on the screen about that. We're going to Kenya, and I know you're coming with us, and it's called 2026 Outreach, Kenya. One movement, one mission, one Kenya. And a group of us will be going to Kenya. We'll be going to leaving Atlanta, leaving New York, leaving Jamaica, leaving California, leaving Florida. And we're going to be going to Kenya and to Nairobi International Airport. And from Nairobi, we'll spend a few days in Nairobi. Then we will go on to different parts of Kenya, east, west, and we'll be doing work in orphanages. We'll be doing work in schools. We'll be doing work in the communities, you know, meeting the local folks, meeting public figures, politicians, government people. So it's a big deal. And this is talking about a collision with purpose. This will be a few of us, our third trip to Kenya, and very looking forward to it. And I know you are too. Tell me, how do you feel?
You know, I don't know. That's a good question. It's a mixture of emotions. You know, I haven't been to Africa in several years. So I'm excited and just curious and so many different things all at the same time. But you know, like I'm excited about this movement, and hearing you say this is our third trip. Wow. I didn't realize. I remember when you first started talking about the first time. And here it is, the third trip. So I'm definitely amazed and excited. Like I said, so many emotions.
Yeah. So this is our second sponsored trip, but a few of us went there before. And I'm telling you, man, each time we go back, you know, what we experience, the whole thing is so much bigger. You learn so much more. You connect with so many more individuals, so many more people, and you're always learning about the culture. And not to mention that is where we're from.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like going back home.
It's like going home. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're going back. We're going back in May, and we'll be there for at least 14 days, and then we'll come back home, and then we'll be off and on to something else. You know, another big thing that is happening, Dr. Juan, and I'm going to drop it in the chat here real quick before we get into our business.
A collision with purpose movement. Dr. Donna Thompson and Dr. Lorraine J. Smith. Every generation is shaped by voices that rise when others are silent. Voices of courage. Voices of wisdom. Voices that remind the world that leadership has many faces. This is her legacy. There's a story in every heart, a fire in every dream. Women rising through the dark, stronger than they seem. Through every challenge they stand tall, through every storm they rise, turning doubt learning to resolve with vision in their eyes. Every word becomes a light, every step becomes a way, building bridges through the night toward a brighter day when purpose calls and courage speaks.
All right, so that's our new show on the A Collision with Purpose movement platform. It's called Her Legacy.
Yeah.
And you heard it, they said there is a story in every heart, a fire in every dream, woman rising through the dark, stronger than they seem. That's what that song is saying, man. It's also saying, every generation is shaped by voices that rise when others are silent. Voices of courage, voices of wisdom, voices that remind the world that leadership has many faces. Now, go ahead, say what's on your mind.
No, I was just gonna say I think it's pretty I would say amazing and interesting how it premiered during this month. This is the Women's History Month.
Indeed. So appropriately done.
Yes, very appropriate.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. I just know that this was a show that is so necessary. We're doing Bridging Generation Voices of Men. We needed to do something that represent our true leaders, our women.
Absolutely.
Our heroes, the ones who we ride on their backs, man.
Yeah.
You're talking about your book, and you said that growing up as a young man and not necessarily having a father present, someone was present.
Yeah.
That was your mother, right?
It absolutely was. My shero, yes.
So this is her legacy. That's what this is all about, her legacy, right? Yeah, so that's how big that is, man. Big stuff. But let's move on, because we have business here.
We do.
Yes, tonight we are addressing a crisis, Dr. Juan. A crisis that rarely makes headlines, but quietly shapes families, communities, and generation. It is the crisis of men who have lost vision. Not men who lack activity, men who lack direction. There are many men today who wake up early, go to work, meet responsibilities, they pay bills, and they handle the daily demands of life. From the outside, everything appears stable, but internally something is missing. They are busy, but not building, moving, but not progressing, working, but not necessarily walking with purpose. And you know what they say, Dr. Juan? A man without vision does not simply drift personally. His family feels it. His children inherit it. His community experiences it. Why? Because vision gives direction to discipline. Vision gives meaning to sacrifice. Vision gives structure to responsibility. And without vision, a man may still move through life, but he's often reacting to circumstances instead of shaping outcomes. So tonight, we are asking an important question. What happens when men lose vision for their lives? And more importantly, Dr. Juan, how do men reclaim it? Let us begin.
Ooh, that opening is something else, Doc. I want to share these conversations for the past couple of weeks have really hit differently because I can speak to them from a personal place, especially this tonight. What came to mind, just preparing for this show is a quote. And I love quotes, I love studying, the philosophers and different people before me, but I want to share this. Helen Keller once said that the only thing worse than being blind is having sight, but no vision. And so, like you said, it's a quiet crisis that many men live with every day. That a man can see the demands of life, he can see the needs of his family, he can see opportunities in front of him, but without a clear sense of purpose guiding his steps. What you said it perfectly. He's not building, he's drifting. I love how you said that. He's
Absolutely.
drifting.
And I want you to repeat that quote, please.
Helen Keller said, the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision.
Wow. And I think what she's saying there is that you're blind, extremely blind, extremely blind. Wow.
Yep.
So the drift of directionless manhood. What happens internally to a man who's busy working and surviving, but has no clear vision guiding his life? What happens, Dr. Juan?
I think there's a lot that happens here. I think what we have to understand is that purpose is one of the strongest drivers of motivation, discipline, resilience, and life satisfaction. So when he's drifting, right, I think he's without any purpose, any direction and hope. Look, I saw a quote. It said, purpose gives pain, context, direction, and hope. So the things that he faces in life, good, bad, or indifferent, without purpose, it has no meaning. So that's how he's able to just drift, because the things that he's going through, whether good or bad, there's this without meaning. So he's just moving aimlessly.
So it's like a routine instead of a mission.
Yeah.
And you know what is interesting, Dr. Juan? They're meeting responsibilities, these men, but the meaning is so unclear. You know, imagine a man waking up, they go to work, returns home, handles obligation, and they continuously repeat that cycle. Right?
Yes.
Repeating that cycle, but deep down internally, that same man begins to feel a little bit disconnected from the deeper purpose of what his life is all about.
Yeah.
Because, and you said it earlier, because one thing about vision is what convert or transforms our effort into direction.
Yes.
And without a vision, and I'm just piggybacking on what you said, without a vision, activity can feel endless and empty. You know, I've had times in my life personally when, and I've said this before, I had just completed 2, 3, 4 degrees, and I almost felt like I had nothing going on. Because even with those achievements, if you don't have a vision of what you're going to do, what your life is about, that is when you take on this sense of what is going on in my life, the emptiness. So, and it is when I started to understand why I am here. And when I say why I'm here, it's not the job or any of those things, my greater purpose in life on earth. That is when everything starts to make sense. All that emptiness, go away. And you know what's so interesting about what we're talking about tonight? We're not talking about lack of ability. Nope. It's more lack of clarity we're talking about.
Yep.
It's a lack of clarity. So let me turn that back to you.
I was reading something interesting the other day, and I came across just some information, and psychologist Viktor Frankl, he captured the reality of this very thing that we're talking about. He wrote this. He said, life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by the lack of meaning and purpose. So in other words, and I'm listening to what you're saying, just even from my own life experiences, is that we could face difficult circumstances alone and not be destroyed, and it does not destroy our ability to endure life. What helps us to go on and to persevere, right, is when we believe that our lives still have meaning. When we find the meaning and purpose in life, we're able to withstand, right? And hold on and push through. I think purpose and vision, builds that stick-to-itness, that wherewithal, like whatever we're facing, we're able to move forward.
But One thing about a vision and a purpose, it's never a private thing.
No.
You just observing me can tell me so much about my purpose, and I can tell you about yours. It's not private, is it? Not if you're doing the work, not if you're walking in your purpose.
No.
So whether a man realizes it or not, guess what? Others are watching him. We're being watched. We're being watched by our children, our friends, even people who are not our friends are watching us. Which brings us to the very next question tonight. How does a man's lack of purpose influence the emotional stability and development of his family?
You know, that's an interesting question, because I find that a father's sense of purpose directly impacts the stability of his family.
Mhm.
And you said it well, you know, that what we learn to do in our own lives, right? There are others watching us, right? And I've come to understand that children don't always do what you say, they do what you do.
Mhm.
You know, and there's a quote for 100 Black Men of the US, you know, 100 Black Men organization. They say about young men is that what they see, they become. And I
Mhm.
honestly believe that. So as we're figuring out life and we're navigating and we're acquiring skills and all of these things that we're learning as we're becoming men and just navigating life, to your point, there are others watching us, and not just watching us just to watch, they're watching us to understand.
Mhm.
So everything that we're going through and what we're doing, you know, that directly impacts our family.
You know, I remember growing up, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela. I had my eyes on them.
Mm,
I was watching them.
yeah.
Yeah. PLO Lumumba. I listen to him talk. I watch him. There's so many, right?
Yes, a
So
lot.
many. So there are people out there, or families, or friends, neighbors. We said it earlier. They are watching us, and especially our children. They observe how we live. And I'll tell you this about children at all age. At all ages. I picked up my grandkids from school today, and they had some very interesting questions for me. They're very perceptive.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a father and you have young children, they're watching how you approach your responsibility, how you deal with conflicts and sacrifices, and they're looking at your overall direction. Are you that person who just gets up, live in the routine, go to work, come home, do this, go to sleep, get up, go to work? That's important. But there's a greater expectation. They want to know that you stand for something in a
Yeah.
world that they are grown up to live in, that you're
Yeah.
making a difference in this world that they're going to live in.
Yeah.
So you have a role to play, and that's where the vision comes into play. In other words, they're looking to see you function in an intentional way, and we call that intentional living.
Yes.
They're looking to see that. You know,
Yep.
so Doc, when a man lives without direction, guess what? The families, the friends they have who are close to them, they also experience uncertainty. Yes, that man may be providing, so provision exists, but leadership requires more than provision, it requires direction. And children, our children especially, we say they are very perceptive, they're aware,
Absolutely.
they learn from the patterns they observe. So a father's vision becomes much more than just going to work doing that. It becomes the stability of the family, of
Yeah.
communities. And that's why we're having this conversation today when men lose vision. Let me turn it back to you. I'm talking too much.
No, you're talking good. You're talking good. Working in the educational system, I see a lot of this, and I see the both sides of it, right? And I've just been thinking about what's been going on lately in the school system, and not necessarily just the system, but just the students and youth and young adults. And just a lot of reports of just suicide rates, increasing, and gun violence and fighting and running away, just all of these different things. And it makes me think about, there have been studies that have been done that show that children who are reared or brought up in environments where the father is without direction, studies show that they have increased behavioral issues.
Mhm.
There's lower academic motivation and uncertainty about life goals. You touched on this, right? So these are three. There are more effects of it, but the three top were the increased behavioral issues, lower academic motivation, and uncertainty about life goals. That last one right there, I think, speaks to all of it.
Mhm.
Just uncertainty about life's goals, because they didn't see someone, to your point, that showed stability,
Mhm.
that modeled goal setting behavior, that showed higher emotional engagement with their children. So
Mhm.
when they face life, and we're not talking about, young adults and 30 somethings or 40, we're talking about, kids, toddlers, adolescents, when they're looking at life and looking at challenges, be it school, social engagements, stuff like that, they struggle navigating and figuring out because they don't have it properly modeled around
Mhm.
them.
That word model, modeling good examples,
Mhm.
role model. We need more of that, don't we?
Absolutely.
We don't have enough.
Absolutely.
You talk about uncertainties, and that cannot be what we're modeling. That cannot be what we're modeling. So here is something to think about. How do so many men reach adulthood without ever developing a clear sense of purpose? And I think you've already answered that.
Yeah, I think the lack of, I'm always careful when I talk about the lack of fathers, because I believe that there are um fathers out there, fathers in the household, and there are good men who are present, and like you touched on this, who provide, great providers
Mhm.
and protectors. However, when it comes to a stronger presence or emotional presence, right? There's a deficit. And I think a lot of times the lack of fathers, emotionally present fathers and mentors, are
Mhm.
how a lot of men reach adulthood without ever discovering purpose.
You touch on a very important, and I'm posting these questions in the chat. I'm posting them. I'm putting them together and posting them because I think it's important that, because we're visual people, right?
Yes.
And while we ask these questions and we discuss them, I think it's important to have them documented, as someone who's watching the show can read them later on, or if you're watching now, you can read them, and you don't have to answer for us, but answer for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Answer for yourself. So we say, why do so many men reach adulthood without discovering purpose? And equally as important, and you said it, you touched on it just now. What role does mentorship play in that reality?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I'm a product of mentorship, and to be honest, I think my earliest memory of someone just taking the time to mentor was age 14. And I know there were many things. I was just talking to my baby brother about this the other day, that you go through life oftentimes, even as a teenage boy and a young adult man, and a lot of the things, qualities, characteristics, skills, or what have you, I learned not necessarily from a father or father figure. Some things I learned from close friends or the fathers of my close friends. watching them, when I was visiting, or watching them from a distance, or friends sharing stories, I would think like, man, that's the type of man I want to be when I get older, or that's the type of impact I want to have on communities or my children when I get older. I have to, so those are the thoughts I would garner when I would be around these men or even my friends.
I must say that I didn't necessarily have the benefit of having mentors early in my life. And we talked about mentorship on the earlier show. I think it was the first show we did in this
Yes.
new series. Yeah, we talk about
The
men.
responsibility.
Yeah, man. So I didn't have that early in my life. But what I did have, and I said it early, I looked at people like Nelson Mandela, Luther King, Malcolm X, just reaching out, getting into reading, watching TV, whatever I had to do to gain access to their teachings. Because that's another thing about mentoring or being mentored. You don't have to be in person.
Yes.
And someone don't necessarily have to say, I'm going to mentor you.
Yeah.
You can seek mentorship from them through all type of mediums, right? You can see that. You can read, listen to them. That's how we learn, but that's a form of observing as well, right? Observing. So, and I will say this, throughout history, men, me, you, because you're a reader, you're a learner. We develop direction through proximity to older men who carry the vision. And that's what I'm talking about when I say, man, like Dr. King, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who passed recently, all great teachers, all great mentors, all great elders, right? So, but what seems to be lacking nowadays, and I have to say this carefully. Many young men today grow up without consistent guidance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think if you look, you got to take a good close look inside the homes and see who are having children. Because if you need mentoring and you're having children, what is the likelihood that your children are not gonna need some serious help?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Another thing, Dr. Juan, this is what I don't watch a lot of TV. In fact, I don't watch television. Right? I don't. I get my news. I go for my news. I don't let them force feed it on me. So I'm very selective, right? And as much as social media is something that we really tap into, I will say it's a lot of visibility there, but not necessarily wisdom.
That's good.
So we're getting a lot of advice. Advice is abundant. It's everywhere. In fact, we're surrounded by information nonstop, but we are lacking meaningful instruction. We're lacking meaningful instruction. So as I said, advice is abundant, but that thing we're talking about now, mentorship, is rare.
Yeah.
And you're a mentor. You're a product of mentorship, and you're also a mentor. So I will go on the hook to say, without mentorship, many men, just like I did early in my life, spend years experimenting with identity and direction. And I've done that. I've done that. Fortunately for me, I eventually discovered my purpose through trials and errors, this and that, watching others and feeling different things out, right? So, but there are too many out there who continue to drift because no one are challenging them to define a mission for their lives. And that's why mentorship is so important, but it's a shortcut to that journey. Men are able to see possibilities much, much earlier in their lives through mentorship. Let me turn it back to you.
No, that's good. I like what's sticking with me is it's like resonating is consistent and intentional mentorship. And I was thinking through while you were talking, I'm like, now I had mentorship for years, but I can honestly say, not to anyone's fault, but it wasn't consistent. So you have those gaps in those pockets, or not you, but I have those gaps in those pockets in my life where there were times where I drifted until I reconnected with someone or met someone, you know what I mean, someone new. So to your point, I absolutely believe that without mentorship, because you come in, and I believe for many of us, we've learned great survival skills, right? But without consistent mentorship, I want to add that word because I love how you phrased it. But without consistent mentorship, be it from afar or up close, I think we never really develop a framework, right, to use to design the life that we want. We don't really know how to do this, so we go through life surviving and never building a life where there's thriving, right? So
Yeah. You just delivered me. You brought me somewhere surviving. And we're going to talk about survival mode here in a second. But let's get back to consistency, mentorship. So what I realized and what I understood and what worked for me is that I am the one that is responsible for my consistency. So if I am to depend on my mentor to come to me, then I'm really putting myself at risk in terms of consistency. So I would be the one, I am the one that will constantly go seek the information consistently. So if I need to learn something on a certain topic, I'll go to the authority on that topic and I do my listing, my research, whether it's on wherever I need to get information, whether it's through a book, listen to them giving speeches or whatever. But that is a form of mentoring. You can be to you talk about something, you're mentoring me. And another thing we must understand is that you don't have to be older than the person to mentor that person.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You don't have to be older. A younger person can mentor a older person. And often we don't see it as such. We're not, because we need to open our eyes and deal with reality. Yeah, so you brought up survival. And I think that's a very important point you make, right? So what are some of the behaviors that will reveal that a man is operating in survival mode rather than intentional living?
Well, that is a great question. Like survival, I think one of the first things, and we touched on this, it actually was the opener, is the lack of direction.
Mm.
And so you find yourself you said drifting, and so what keeps coming to mind is, I think something, and I just speak from experience, I think one of the key things to me is going about life aimlessly.
Mm.
So, and I think the issue with that is, when I look at life, so many opportunities can come your way, and they can be good opportunities, right? But if you lack direction and there's no consistency, right, you can say yes to a ton of things and never. You said this earlier, that they get busy being busy, but they're not building.
Mm.
So I think one of the key things to that is being busy, working hard, working, but never coming to a meaningful place in life or even building a life of meaning.
Mm. You're hitting some words there, man. And and we said it earlier, and in fact, one of the most common sign is constant busyness without long-term direction.
Yeah.
In fact, men without vision often feel overwhelmed, but they're not fulfilled. They're doing a lot. They're doing a lot. Busy, 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 doing everything. But the sense of fulfillment is not there. So what you find, because of that, they're moving from obligation to obligation, but they're never asking the question about the impact they're having, impact they're making.
That's good.
They never do. And in fact, when a man is living in survival mode, they tend not to want to reflect about life. They're afraid. Afraid of reflection. They're afraid of reflection. You know, and not to mention, you just feel like you're stuck, you feel fatigued. You know, we talk about uncertainty, not sure of what they're really building. So, without vision, a man is living in a reactionary state. Instead of being responsive and responding to situations in their lives, they're reacting. You know, so everything is urgent.
Yeah.
But and you said it earlier, nothing feels meaningful. And I'll tell you what a vision is good for a man. And we're talking about man, but it applies to everybody, right? A vision allows a man to prioritize what truly matters.
Yes.
Yeah. When you have a vision, you know when you get up today what you need to be doing. Because there's got to be alignment with your behavior, with your actions, with your vision. Because if your vision is to take you where you say you want to go, then there must be alignment. So if you have a vision, a clear vision of what your life is all about, guess what? It will govern your behavior. It will govern your actions. Because you will know if you're doing A plus B and it's not aligned with C, which is your vision, guess what? You won't do it.
That's good. I like that word, alignment. Yeah.
You won't do it. Yeah. All right. Let me hand it back to you.
You know, just listening to you say that to describe vision, vision, you know, and I read this, vision acts like a compass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're talking about, you know, alignment and direction and not being reactive, you know, and so you're lacking direction. So then without vision, you don't have that compass directing you. And I think with that compass, I think internally it says, too far left. Wait, come back to, you know, so it's guiding you. No, that's too soon. Nope, that's too much. I think that vision, then it shows you like, this is who we are. This is where you're going. And then because you have vision, you can see what doesn't fit or what's misaligned. So without vision, you lack that compass. And I think without it, you know, you stated this, decisions become reactive instead of intentional. Progress becomes difficult. And again, we start to drift.
Yeah.
To me, it's almost like putting a puzzle together with no picture. You don't know what it's supposed to look like. So you're just throwing these pieces together and they don't fit. So you're frustrated. Eventually you do what? You give up because these pieces don't fit. I don't know what this is supposed to look like. I'm just forcing them together. They're not aligned. They don't fit. I'm done.
I'm done. Why waste my time?
Yes.
It ain't going nowhere, right?
Something else. Yeah.
It ain't going nowhere. So, yeah. So without a vision, your life becomes a cycle of reaction. And we've been saying, but I just wanted to summarize it. But let's, you know, drifting does not have to be permanent, right?
No.
In fact, many men experience a moment that awakens them. You know, many men, right?
Yes.
There's a moment. I've had mine. I've had my wake up, my collision with purpose. That's what we're talking about. Yes. I had my collision, things that just, boom. What am I doing with my life? A wake up thing, right? I've had many, in fact, and we're not going to talk about one of these shows. We'll talk about our collision with our purpose.
Yeah,
that'll be a good one, right? We'll make it about that. But So my question is, what experience caused a man to confront the fact that he has been living without direction? Dr. Juan, what experiences cause a man to confront the fact that he has been living without direction?
So look, I found these awakening triggers that allows a man to realize that he's been living without direction: crisis,
Mm,
fatherhood,
good one.
mentor confrontation, and spiritual encounter. So in crisis we talk about life-changing events. Things happen, financial, woes, health scares, things, and it gets your attention to really cause you to think like, okay, where am I? What am I doing? What's going on? Fatherhood, I think that's one thing that causes you to really reevaluate and reassess how you're living your life, because now you're realizing that there are others that depend on you. And I think when we talk about relationship, mentor confrontation, I think the good thing is you have someone coming and holding you accountable and checking you, to make sure you're on track.
Yeah, accountability is a big thing.
Absolutely.
Huge, huge. But I find reflection to be so important.
Mm-hmm.
I find to sit down and talk to myself, to examine myself. And when I say examine myself, it's a daily thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did these things today. What did these things do for me? Are they supporting my vision? Are they taking away from my vision? It's part of my reflection daily.
Mm-hmm.
I look at my primary actions for the day, the things that I did, and I go back and I replay them at the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah. Very important. Because I tell you what happened. And as you get older in life, right? As you start to realize that the years are going by and you're not making meaningful progress, that's a wake-up call there as well. If you are that person who believe that you're here to do something significant and you're not just here occupying space and just doing the routine, mundane stuff. If you look in the mirror and you say, okay, this last 5 years went by so fast, man. What did I accomplish? That's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
This last 10 years, and you can't point to 1, 2, 3 things that you accomplish outside of yourself. That's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
That's an awakening moment for me. And I've had those experiences, by the way. I've had them. So you said it too, fatherhood creates an awakening. Because Dr. Juan, the responsibility of shaping another life, man, that's deep, forces deep questions, right? I know I picked up my grandchildren from school today, and when I look at them, if I don't have any other reason or reasons to do something outside of myself in this world, they're the ones that give it to me. Every time I look at them, I know I'm here to do something, and it cannot be just about me.
Absolutely.
Because at least I must make this place as best as I can within my limitations a better place for them. So they are a big time awakening system for me, and I'm calling them a system.
I like that. A system. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's generational.
Yeah, absolutely. I was having a conversation with my granddaughter, and we're talking about names, and she said, "But I'm a Foster," and I said, "You're a Stephenson." I said, "That's your dad's name. Well, you're still a Stephenson." You talk about generational.
Yes.
So
yes.
I make she understand that yes, the name but there's more than the name.
Yes.
Yeah. She said, but my dad name. I said, no, but you're still that. Yes, that's your dad and you carry that name, but you're also. So we had that conversation. We're talking about a 7-year-old. We're having that deep conversation with that people. We're having that conversation, right? Because we have to have those conversations, right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you said these failure, loss, challenge, those are awakenings that can wake you up if you're conscious. Because often, a lot of times, you are living in survival mode, not because, well, I will always say something you can do. You always can do something about it, but sometimes you fall into some situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you must get out of it. It's your responsibility to get out of it. You are probably not the reason why you fell in it, even though I believe that everything that happens in your life, you own it. You must own it. And you must look in the mirror and ask yourself, how did this happen? Why did I end up here? And so often it's a decision you made or didn't make that caused that to happen. So you got to look in the mirror and be the first one to take the hit.
Yeah.
I did it. I'm responsible, right? I'm responsible, right? So during difficult seasons, you'll force men to examine their priorities. And I did a talk about, what did I talk about today? But I got great reception. I posted a video talking about the circumstances of your life should not govern who you are. It shouldn't govern your identity. I did a talk about that. But the circumstances and seasons are very temporary things in your life. You are the author of your story. You're the author of your life. So if you are the author, write a story that is worth living, a story that is going to contribute to the betterment of everything around you, everyone around you. Right? Yeah. So let me turn it to you.
No, you touched on something really good. This that the last part you said. I literally was sharing that same idea with one of my siblings today. And I was telling them, I said, hey, I said, this is a difficult time, but see it through. Trust the process and finish it so you can tell the story, right? Because you get to finish the chapter, but you have to finish the chapter, you know. Because you can always, you know, just and read, and of course I'm using a metaphor, but you can always read and close the book, but you didn't finish the book, you just closed it.
Just close it.
Right? So it's almost like escapism, like I'm gonna find something else to distract me, but no, finish the chapter. That way that you can, to your point, you finish the chapter, now you can talk about it. You can tell the story, you know. So I think that's an important thing to capture. And the last thing I'll say about that, it takes me back to what we talked about earlier, is when you can find purpose or meaning, right, in the suffering or the struggle or the season, it helps to push through.
Absolutely.
It helps to push through.
Absolutely. It's awakening. It's an awakening.
Yeah.
So I recorded a video. I haven't posted it yet. And I started like this. At some point in life, you must make a decision. Are you going to live your life as the author of your story or as a character reacting to whatever happens next? That is how I lead off. And I'm going to be posting that tomorrow. And of course, it's going to go deeper and deeper. It's going to go deeper and deeper. But I just feel compelled to talk about circumstances in your life. That's where I'm at right now, because too many of us are letting the circumstances in our life govern and dictate, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to get over that. We need to move past that. All right, because that's never a good thing. So we talk about awareness. We talk about responsibility. We talk about all that good stuff, mentoring, all that good stuff. But once a man becomes aware, the next step becomes clearer, right? And that is,
absolutely,
you got to rebuild your vision.
Yep.
And What disciplines and relationships help a man rediscover purpose and begin building a meaningful life?
I think brotherhood, community, and accountability help with that.
Mm.
I research shows that men actually develop purpose faster when surrounded by mentors, accountability groups, leadership communities, like we're talking about in this conversation, when they're participating or surrounded in, groups like this where they can have open and raw and real conversations, and people are holding them accountable and asking what you say, the probing questions, the thought-provoking questions that leaves you in a reflective state. It pushes them quicker to discovering their purpose, or which we'll touch on it later, but colliding with their
Mm.
purpose. Yeah,
Well, in the company of other men who are possess what we want,
yes,
who are doing the things that we want to do.
yes,
And I'll tell you this, having these conversations with you is so beneficial to me personally. I'm growing from them. These
absolutely.
conversations we're having. This channel, this platform is a growth path.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a growth path. So you said it, mentorship is important, faith is important, have
absolutely.
that discipline, the community you're in, right? Because you got to ask questions, right? You got to ask questions. And you find that as men start to ask more deeper questions, they learn more
Yes,
and they
yeah,
find more seriousness in who they are as well.
yeah.
And we've talked about the importance of reflection. But I tell you one big thing, and you said you like that word. Well, you did say you like alignment, but I also know that you like intentional.
Yes,
You have to be very intentional about who you are and where you're going. Intentionality is critical, as equally as important. In fact, it connects perfectly with alignment, intentionality. Because, and I will also say, purpose is not a personal thing. It's not simply a personal thing. It is personal, but it's not just about personal access.
mm,
You plays an important role in my purpose, in the pursuit of my purpose. Dr. Donna plays an important role. We're a community.
yes,
And if your purpose is going to be greater than you, it's not going to be just you. So as you rebuild your thing, to recapture your vision, it's important to surround yourself with people who are on the move, who are very purposeful or very intentional, who who understand the importance of aligning their behavior, their actions with their vision, with their purpose. So community is critical, and that's why I mean it's not just about personal access. So, Dr. Juan, very important is that you, me, anyone out there who's watching, listening to us, that they understand how their life contributes to the life of others
oh
in their
yes,
community, in the world. And that's another way to connect yourself with vision.
yeah, yeah,
And let me get the alignment piece to make sense. When you as a man is able to reconnect your daily actions with your vision, that's when you're going to find and you can become energized and fired up all over again, because you will see more meaning. Your work will become more meaningful because you will start to see results. And there's nothing that empowers you more than when you're seeing results. When you're seeing results, This is the fruit of your labor.
Yes.
Man, that fire you up, man.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me hand it back to you because, my goodness, we're at the hour.
We are.
Oh, man, you got me going in this conversation tonight. I didn't
This is
realize.
good stuff. This is good stuff.
Oh my goodness, we're at the hour, man. All right. So we gotta shut it down. We have another meeting. We gotta shut it down. I did not realize we're at the hour, man. I apologize.
Look, this is where the iron sharpens the iron. Like, this is what's happening.
All right, so we gotta close out. I saw Dr. Donna was on earlier. Hey, Dr. Donna, thanks for joining us. Our CFO, Her Legacy host of the Her Legacy show.
Yes.
Gonna be airing. The first episode will be on Wednesday next week at 7:30. Catch us there. We're also gonna be on Monday in the Spotlight. Catch us there. We're also gonna be on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Life-changing conversation to inspire actions. At 7:30, Dr. Donna and Dr. Lorraine will be on Her Legacy. And of course, our show, Bridging Generation, Voices of Men in a Changing World, is on every Thursday with insightful, powerful conversations like this at 7:30 p.m. Dr. Juan, say what you got to say before I say something and you come back and close us out.
Look, I just want to add to what you were saying, just by it being intentional and consistent, because the thing is, it impacts everybody else. And it's so important to know. I think the biggest takeaway that I have from this discussion is awareness. Because whether there's someone in front of you or not, there's someone to model or not, there has to be a time where you reassess, that you look at self, that you ask those questions. Where am I? Who am I? Who do I want to become? What am I doing? Doc, you said this. What have I done differently in the past 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Am I doing the same thing? Has my mind shifted? Has my mind grown? Those are the type of questions you want to ask yourself. That's how you measure, right? Growth, the metrics, if you will.
That is a powerful question. Who am I? And often when you ask someone, who are you? They start telling you about their jobs, their work,
what they do.
And that is not the answer. We didn't ask you, what do you do? Who are you?
Yeah.
Define yourself. And if your job is the defining thing about you, then you're letting circumstances govern and dictate your life, because your job is a circumstance in your life.
Yeah.
That's the power of understanding that question. So if you're watching us tonight, if you watch the replay, go out there and ask yourself, look in the mirror, who am I? And come up with an answer. You can post it here in the chat if you feel so inclined. All right, Dr. Juan. Big stuff. Tonight, we explored a reality that many men experience, but rarely discuss. Tonight, we discussed it. And I'm talking about the reality of living busy lives without clear direction. Dr. Juan, vision is not simple ambition. It's more than ambition. It is a responsibility. Just like mentoring is, just like getting out of that silence space it is a responsibility. It is the clarity that guides decisions, shape discipline, and stabilize families. And God knows we need stability in our families. Dr. Juan, a man without vision may still move through life successfully by many external measures. But I tell you what vision is all about. Vision determines whether that movement creates impact, and our lives is about impact. So before we close tonight, I'm going to ask 3 questions. If someone studied the way I am living today, what would they see a man with vision, or a man simply surviving responsibilities? Let me repeat that. If someone studied the way I am living today, would they see a man with vision or a man simply surviving responsibilities? Next, who is being shaped by the direction or the absence of direction in my life? Who is being shaped by the direction or the absence of direction in my life? Final question. If I continue living exactly the way I am living now for the next 10 years, what kind of legacy will I leave behind? Let me repeat that one. If I continue living exactly the way I am living now for the next 10 years, what kind of legacy will I leave behind? Dr. Juan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Doc, that was powerful. Those questions just got my mind spinning. But yes, to our guests, our listeners, be it, who are on here live with us, or if you're watching or listening to the replay, I will say, don't forget to like, share, comment. Please comment, because we read it, and we want to engage. But today, we talked about what happens when men lose vision. That's what this discussion was about. And the truth is, it's not always loud or dramatic. Most of the time, it looks like quiet drifting. Doc talked about this. We're working harder, we're staying busy, we're meeting responsibilities, but slowly we're realizing that effort without direction still leaves a man empty. Mm-hmm. That's why the words, and I repeat this, I love her quote, the words of Helen Keller still ring true. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight, but no vision. And scripture also reminds us in Proverbs 29:18 that where there is no vision, people perish. So it's not always physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and generationally, people can perish without vision. And without it, a man drifts. His life becomes reactionary instead of led by direction, as Doc talked about. He wakes up busy, works harder, but still arrives nowhere meaningful. With vision, we talked about it tonight, a man builds. But here's the hopeful part of the conversation. Y'all don't remember anything else. Know that vision can be rediscovered. Purpose can be reclaimed. And when a man reconnects with why he was created, everything around him begins to change. What changes? His decisions, his discipline, his leadership, and the future of everyone connected to him. Because when a man finds vision, he doesn't just change his life, he changes the direction of generations that follow him. So we thank you for joining us tonight, for listening to the replay. As Doc stated, same time, same place, Thursday nights, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you next week.
This is not just a show. This is a shift. A reset of how men think, how men heal, and how men lead. Before behavior, there is belief. Before legacy, there is mindset. And before change reaches generations, it must first reach the mind. This is bridging generations. Yeah. We will